Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Khalistan come up once again. This time when the Prime Minister was addressing a gathering of Sikhs on the Khalsa day, Khalistan Zindabad slogans were raised. Prime Minister Trudeau was seen smiling and seemed okay when a gathering to celebrate a cultural festival asked for the breakup of another country. He assured nearly 800,000 Canadians of Sikh heritage that his government will increase security around Gurdwaras. Now, Canada has the second largest Sikh population in the world. And Prime Minister Trudeau's government is supported by NDP party, whose leader, Jagmeet Singh, is a Khalistani sympathizer, an open one at that. Prime Minister Trudeau's government in the past has protected people indulging in anti-India activities. And Prime Minister Trudeau is yet to provide the proof on India's involvement in the killing of Niger. But why is Canada constantly giving political space to separatism, extremism and violence? Joining me to discuss this are Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former Special Director in the IB, Yashovardhan Azad, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul here in the studio. Welcome to the News9 Plus Show. Aditya, any surprises about the Khalistan slogans that you heard? Is Prime Minister Trudeau never going to disappoint us when it comes to Khalistan?
Clearly he won't. You know, is it a surprise at all, Sandeep, that, for last several months we've been discussing Khalistan threadbare. We have researched this, we have made several documentaries, and it hits us yet again.
Yes.
Immediately after the G20 last year, this propaganda gained yet another momentum.
Right.
Where Justin Trudeau has gone all out in support of the Khalistan. He has not left any other, any other move left to in fact prove his stance very clearly.
Right.
And while privately Canadian diplomats and the Canadian government conveyed to India that steps would be taken to keep them under check and control, clearly it seems that no action has been taken. And yet again, on the Khalistan day, we saw three prominent leaders, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh and the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, who clearly came in support. But only one leader, Pierre Poilievre, did not support the Khalistan stand openly.
Right.
It was both Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh clearly supporting the Khalistanis out there.
Right.
Jagmeet Singh is not a Khalistani sympathizer, mind you. He's a Khalistani himself.
Right.
He said that, he will do whatever is possible to make Khalistan happen and at the same time involve legislation for Sikh genocide in India in 1984.
Right.
So clearly, Justin Trudeau is doing whatever is possible, and probably in the later part of the discussion, we'll see and discuss that there are two things happening parallelly, Sandeep.
Right.
One is the appeasement of the Khalistanis and the terror supporters by Justin Trudeau government.
Right.
And second is the deep state in United States and Canada working in tandem to in fact build pressure on India.
Right. Absolutely. Mr. Azad, this is an issue that we've been discussing here at News9. As Aditya mentioned, we've done a series of documentaries on the fact that how Khalistan, a movement that has died out in India, and thanks to the efforts of officers like you and your colleagues who've eradicated that menace from India from the 80s and the 90s. Today, it's alive and it's well and it's being celebrated and it's being feted in Canada of all places, which didn't seem to have any bone against India. And today Khalistan slogans are being openly called for. My point is that have we reached a point of no return in Canada when you have prime ministers openly endorsing calls for Khalistan? Has vote bank politics literally, reached the point of no return in Canada, that this very small minority of Khalistani sympathizers has now become a majority?
Well, Sandeep, it's extremely unfortunate that we have to discuss this on a public platform about India-Canada relations in the shadow of Khalistanis. And, ironically, there is more threat from Khalistanis in Canada to Indians than in India, where you say that it has actually rapidly vanished, except for some residual, acts of crime which are being perpetrated from there. Unfortunately, these relations between India and Canada have been continuing for long, and it has a history from Kanishka bombing, as you would appreciate, because when they failed to act on the intelligence inputs. And in fact, the commission itself, which came later, said the same thing,
Right.
that the government did not do anything. So, given that background, and then this continuous, migration of these Sikhs who are going there in the name of Khalistan,
Yes.
Major went as a plumber,
Right.
and he was there hanging around without getting any, asylum or status till he finally managed it. And this
Right.
man in British Columbia was organizing an arms training camp in 2015.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, this kind of activity, unfortunately, you were asking whether it will continue, and I think it will continue for two reasons. One is that the Gurdwaras are really asserting themselves over
Right.
there now.
Right.
But they have the money, they have the cash, and
Yes.
therefore these people who are coming, they have a regular kind of a safe haven from there they can
Right.
operate.
Right.
Secondly, as you rightly said, is the vote bank politics,
Right.
which has taken over. Now, I won't say that what Trudeau did will constitute a kind of he's a politician.
Right.
He's a prime minister. Baisakhi celebration is a very, very important event, Sandeep. And
Yes.
in Punjab, in fact, when we were monitoring the activities, we used to actually see in Hola Mohalla, Baisakhi celebration,
Yes.
which Gurdwara or which particular group has
Right.
garnered the maximum strength.
Right.
So I understand that the Prime Minister has to go there. But definitely, the three things which they are condoning is absolutely unpardonable. That
Right.
is threat to our diplomats,
Yes.
obstructing their routine activities, vandalizing our flag.
Right.
Now, this is something which the NIA is compiling dossiers
Yes.
to. Canada is not replying, and Canada has not even extradited. So, unfortunately, in the end, I have to agree with you that yes, this kind of a stalemate looks like continuing for some time.
Vote bank politics down the path of no return. Ambassador Mukherjee, I want to ask you this scenario that imagine for a moment if India were sheltering separatists from another country, a European country. For instance, Quebec. If Quebec wants to secede from Canada, you have a whole lot of Quebecians or whatever they're called sitting here in India and raising free Quebec slogans, and India provides shelter to those kind of people. What would be the consequences for something like this? Wouldn't there be hell to pay? I'm just asking if these kind of things that are condoned by Canada, if they were to be repeated if the shoe was on the other foot, how would the world react to this?
Well, actually, Sandeep, what you said demonstrates the continuing double standards in international relations.
Right.
Not the whole world, it's just the West. Because
Yes.
the whole world, the global south, etc., does not approve of Justin Trudeau's behavior, and
Right.
nor do they support this kind of vote bank policy. But let us look at the incident in its perspective, just as my batchmate and friend, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad just
Right.
pointed out. Baisakhi is very important.
Yes.
It was on Baisakhi in 1919 when Jallianwala Bagh happened.
Right.
India's in the middle of an election, and instead of talking about Baisakhi as it represents the true Sikh Punjab Indian culture,
Right.
it was desecrated in a way by these slogans.
Yes.
And some people try to argue that Mr. Trudeau does not understand Punjabi, so maybe it took him some time to understand, but the
Right.
slogans were very clear. It was Khalistan Zindabad, which is something that he must be familiar with. Which
Right.
brings us to the next question, which is that there are 2% Sikhs in Canada,
Right.
2% Hindus, 56% practicing Christians,
Right.
and the rest are actually agnostic. They say they have no religion. Out of these 2% Sikhs, everyone is not a Khalistani.
Right.
Therefore, they represent a minuscule minority.
Yes.
So this Jagmeet Singh, in a way, is actually trying to blackmail Trudeau
Right.
into supporting his minuscule movement, because, as Yasho said, the Gurdwaras have become powerful.
Yes.
Gurdwaras have become recruiting grounds.
Right.
The Gurdwaras are actually trying to build up opinion to support Trudeau, provided he does certain things.
Right.
Earlier, they were bringing misguided Sikh youth from Punjab to Canada, to Vancouver. That has fortunately stopped. So now they are falling back on what they had. I
Right.
don't think that this movement, so-called movement, matters at all. In India, it's been wiped out, as Yashu said.
Yes.
And in Canada, it only matters as long as Trudeau is in power and he has to call elections early next year, which they say he's going to lose.
Right.
Once a conservative government comes to power in Canada,
Yes.
this absolute charade will end. But
Right.
what we need to do in the meantime is to crack down very hard on
Right.
such people, and if it is going to impact bilateral relations, so be it. Because if Justin Trudeau thinks that he can bring pressure on the world's largest democracy, which has excellent bilateral relations with Canada,
Yes.
which is a fellow Commonwealth country, in the middle of a national election in this manner,
Right.
he's mistaken. We are not a banana republic. We're
Right.
not going to take pressure from any country.
Right.
And I think he will find out after when he's driven out of power how much damage he has done in the short and medium term to a robust, good bilateral relationship that we enjoyed, Canada and India.
Absolutely. Very important points there, Ambassador Mukherjee. And Aditya, short-term gain and long-term damage. That's what Justin Trudeau's plan seems to be with the Khalistan movement. But I was reading your social media post a few days back, and you said if Justin Trudeau wants Khalistan so badly, he should actually, declare it in Canada itself. They have a lot of territory there, I'm told. So one province surely can be renamed Khalistan, and he can give Jagmeet what he wants.
Actually, my friend shifted to Canada recently.
Right.
And he told me that from one portion to another, it took almost 20 hours to travel.
Right.
So there are huge forest lands, there is massive territory
That's
in
right.
Canada. So why not declare a Khalistani sovereign state within the parameters of Canada?
Absolutely.
If, his heart really bleeds for the Khalistanis.
Right.
But the larger question here is, Sandeep, on a serious note, that Justin Trudeau is only walking on the footsteps of his father.
Yes.
His father looked the
Pierre
other way
Trudeau.
during Kanishka
Right.
bombing. He did not take steps. He knew what was going to happen. There were intelligence reports.
Yes.
And now there are not only intelligence reports.
Yes.
It's in the public domain. It's
Right.
on social media. It's on public, functions openly on
Yes.
Canadian soil. In this case, in Ontario, across Toronto, across Brampton, all
Right.
across.
Right.
There are events that are happening in
Tableaus are
which
being,
Indira Gandhi,
Indira
Indira
Gandhi's
Gandhi,
tableaus, of course.
what was her crime? Indira Gandhi is being celebrated, her killing is being celebrated.
Yes.
And at the same time, there are, these posters against Prime Minister Narendra Modi that he would be attacked, posters of Ajit Doval,
Yes.
Jai Shankar, Amit Shah, at the same time, Indian diplomats. So,
Yes.
in no country will this be tolerated.
Right.
Just like you mentioned, just like our esteemed guests mentioned, that in any country in the West as well, if there are openly posters
Right.
of foreign diplomats being shown killed
Yes.
or bounty announced in their name, there will
Absolutely.
be strict, swift action. But
Absolutely.
in this
Threats
case,
of violence against diplomats are not tolerated by any country.
cannot be tolerated. And one is the Vienna Convention
Yes.
that the diplomats and the officers have to abide by. Second, there are some diplomatic not niceties, but protocols
Right.
that you have to abide by, and these are understood. But at the same time, in the case of Canada, which preaches the world, and the entire West that preaches the world on rules-based order,
Right.
where is this rules-based order for the Canadians?
Right.
Why isn't the Canadian government acting as per the principles of democracy, rules-based
Right.
order, international order, which clearly indicate that in a case of separatism, in a case where violence is being sought, where
Right.
provocation towards violence is being sought, there needs to be swift action. On the other hand, we see the RCMP looking the other way. We
Right.
see his political partner, Jagmeet Singh, provoking further violence.
Yes.
And when dossiers are shared with the Justin Trudeau government, they
Right.
say we can't act.
Right. Mr. Azad, the points that Aditya just made, isn't this how intelligence organizations really function? Because, the Khalistan movement kind of gives the Canadians a lever, especially the intelligence agencies. You have a ready-made set of, can we say, informants, people that can be used as tools as leverage, as foreign policy leverage, and those are extremely precious. Do you see that Canadian intelligence agencies actually using the Khalistani movement and its activities and its activists against India as levers, as intelligence tools?
You see, absolutely right. I mean, I wish we had some Quebecans here. We
Right.
would have certainly some fringe elements and tremendous leverage we would have had.
Right.
You gain a lot of information.
Yes.
You have a lot of activities. which I need not say on this platform. But it has also been observed that some of these wildest supporters of Khalistan have been having frequent meetings with the ISI agents who are there in Canada. And in fact, it's actually exposed even. But let me also endorse Bhaswati's views when she said that two things she said, and I am totally for it, that there is a benign kind of a benefactor in the personality of Mr. Trudeau. And he's facing an election next year. Nobody been so what you call benign or kind to the Khalistani activities over there in the way of such blatant disregard of all canons of diplomacy. The second point, which is said that a very tough action should be taken, I totally endorse it. Here NIA has done a tremendously good job. First, it is designating more and more of these people as terrorists, number one. Red corner notices have been issued, and even then extradition is not taking place. And therefore, the attachment of properties have also started in Punjab. This is what they deserve. Like one of the terrorists who had come to India, and the NIA had done an investigation in Britain when he was vandalizing the embassy, and he has been caught over here. This is the right approach against these Canadian Khalistanis who are trying to survive on the basis of trying to show more and more activities and gain some kind of recognition from the SI and the Canadian government to show that they have influence amongst their own community. The other thing which I wanted to say, which is a serious thing, is that there is an MP there, I think Chanda Arya, Hindu MP, who has made it public, belongs to Trudeau party, and has openly said that threat is being issued out to the non-Sikhs Indians in Canada. And yet action is yet to be taken. So on two sets. One is the action to be taken for their activities against the the Hindus over there, or non-Sikhs Indians. And second is the open hostile action taken against the diplomat, open threats given. These are two things I think we need to keep into mind, because this will absolutely create our relations, completely put it in the freeze between India and Canada for some.
It's already happened, Mr. Azad. The relations are in a deep freeze, and every day it throws up more and more surprises. That, I mean, we were just discussing it the other day, Aditya and me, about this genocide call for the 1984 riots. I mean, that is something that's designed to internationally shame India. But Ambassador Mukherjee, given the fact that we are in 1984, it's the 40th year when we all feared that Punjab would literally, collapse. It was so, violent, the kind of the activities that we saw in Delhi and in Punjab with the Golden Temple. Do you see a kind of ramping up of the rhetoric from Canada? It started with this call for a genocide to be observed for 1984. We are in the thick of elections, and already these surprises are coming up, Khalistan slogans. Do you see the Trudeau government actually ramping up the pro-Khalistan rhetoric this year, and what do you think we must really do in the next couple of months to call them out?
In the first instance, Sandeep, it is very important to remember that there is no Khalistan movement, full stop. There is no Khalistan movement in India, and if there is a Khalistan movement in Canada, then it is their Canadian Khalistan movement. There is nothing affects India. That's the first point.
Absolutely.
The second is we need not give importance to what is happening in Canada on national television in India. Because by doing so, we are actually pandering to giving them importance on what they are saying. Whereas what they are saying is totally irrelevant in India, in Punjab, and in the context of the national election. The third point is that we need to understand that if we wish to reciprocate in any manner, we should do so in a manner that hurts them the most. And what would hurt them the most? We have already removed the security outside the Canadian High Commission in Delhi. They tried to reduce our diplomats, we did the same. When we did the same, they were in a situation where they were unable to continue to give visas to young unemployed youth in Punjab whom they were trying to entice and take them to Canada. So that is already impacted. Then there was this whole issue of student visas. Because they don't have people to give student visas, it's fallen. So in a way, if you like, Sandeep, they have been caught enmeshed in their own mesh, in a way.
Right, absolutely.
See.
Canada's
Secondly,
caught
strongly
enmeshed.
advocate.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mukherjee. I'm afraid we're completely out of time here, but that's a very important point that you made over there. And Aditya, I wholeheartedly endorse this, the fact that we should not call it the Khalistan movement, we should call it the Canadian Khalistan movement, because that is clearly what this is all about. It is Canada playing to the galleries, playing vote bank politics, as our esteemed guests have just mentioned, and this is the fact that we should call out the Canadian Khalistani movement. We saw it as Trudeau's Canada's done, but it's far worse than that. It's the Canadian Khalistan movement, and I think we should start calling it that. But thank you very much, Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul for highlighting this grave danger to India's security emanating from, of all the places, Canada. Thanks for watching.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.